What's happening, everybody? Our Thursday training is on. Our man Grayson here just gave us a little housekeeping, and now we got our special guest for the week, Mr. Spencer Mayo. Spencer,
Come
how
on.
you doing, bro?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Better than I deserve. How you guys doing?
Better than I deserve. Stop that. We're good, bro. We're good. I'm happy that you're here for us. I want to thank you. I want to tell you the reason why you're here too. And I'm
Tell me.
looking at all these new faces that I have on. Dude, that's so empowering. That's so like it makes Chris, Grayson, myself, every leader, Brad, Mike, want to put more out there for you guys. So do me a favor. When you're running appointments, be on the Zoom. Even if it's quiet and you don't hear anything, get in there. And if you have a question, that's the time to do it. Somebody's going to be off the phone that can get that answer to you. June's always there. Brad's always there. I spend a good amount of time there. Mike's been on there lately. Todd's been on there. So whoever you are, you're running appointments, you're plugging in, this room stays open for all of you guys to be a part of. Spencer, do you guys have a room that you do something like this with?
Yeah, so basically we have a room with a bunch of breakout rooms. And so each leader has their own room. So everyone's just like ripping prezos. And if like let's say someone gets no showed, you just go to a different room where someone is ripping prezos.
Pre-sales presentations.
Yeah, presentations. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, I like it.
Yeah, it's a whole code for sure.
So Spencer, dude, I saw you on the training last Friday, and I was like, I love the delivery, I love the message, I love the things that you were like touching on, and I was like, this dude understand it, like he gets it, right? So I want to dive into a couple of those things that you went over, but if you could just give us a little background on who Spencer Mayo is.
Sure. I'll give you the short version if that's all right. Because I can go on, man. So actually am not from the insurance business at all. I'm actually from the gym business. So I owned a gym for about 7 years with my partner, and then COVID comes around and I lost the gym. So I built teams and hired people and did the whole thing at a young age just because I fell in love with the gym and getting people fit. The rug was kind of swept under me, so I had to figure out the sales thing because I wanted to work online. And so 2019, 2020 comes and I started selling high ticket closing, real estate coaching. So it was like a $10,000 to $20,000 offer, and I bought a bunch of coaching and figured it out. And I was doing that for a couple of years, basically since then, so 5 years now. And I ran a couple teams, and I ran a couple other offers, and I made a bunch of money. But ultimately, I was on the intercoastal one day, and I'm on the boat, not my boat, but I'm on a boat. I look around, I'm like, dude, none of these houses were bought with courses. Like nobody bought a house selling courses like this, you know? And so I was like, where's the real money? So I dug into it and eventually ended up here in insurance because with financial services, insurance, and real estate is where all the most self-made millionaires are. And so I made the shift, and since then it's been a big exodus. I've been bringing a lot of people over from the high ticket world, and got a cool little team going. And it's a sweet career, versus just like a gig, like most sales jobs are.
Totally, right? And the more people can understand that, like, it's truly a career. Yeah, you don't have a job, you don't have a title, you don't have a boss, but it's truly a career and it takes that much commitment. So I know you're in South Florida too. You're in our beautiful intercoastal, cruising the waters, and you're like, damn, these houses are nice. Let me sling some insurance. How long have you been doing it for now?
The end of November, I got contracted.
End of November, my man. So like you're not even sick, you're 4 months in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. How'd you end up
Going
with your
for.
trust?
Luckily, by the grace of God, after what I've learned about what's out there. So I did high ticket with Brandon Kawachi back in the day. So I had seen him go from American Income Life a year ago, and then he went to FFL and he struggled. And I was like, yeah, maybe insurance isn't it. And then when he came to Unitrust, I just saw him posting and I reached out to him. I was like, hey, is this legit? And then he showed me the back end. I was like, I'm in. Where do I get licensed?
Yeah, where do we find more of you, my man? That's awesome. Yeah, no,
Heck
that's
yeah.
that's that's a great that's a great story of like seeing that of how other people have gone from other industries. But the moment you get the taste and you're able to make a little bit of money and you realize that dude, you're helping your family by helping other families protect their family, it's like a no-brainer, man. So part of the things that you were talking about was like, listen, you're new into insurance, you're seeing some success with sales, but you're like not so into focusing on sales itself because you see the bigger picture. You were able to zoom out, right, and get a good analysis of where you want to be. And you brought up some of the training, and you brought up some of the things that you were saying during the appointment that you gathered from your greatest mentor and Chris's greatest mentor and Mike Warren's greatest mentor, Mr. Tony Robbins. And I was like, this guy's impactful. So tell us a little bit about what gave you the vision right away of where you want to be, what your goals are, how you plan on getting to those things.
Sure, sure. If I understand the question correctly, is like you're saying what made the shift to go from like, hey, I can write business, I could make 1 million a year. Why did I sacrifice the time and go to build the team?
Yeah, there we go. You said it better.
Sure, sure. Just make sure I understand. So short version is well, basically, I had a couple of really good hires early on. And when the overrides hit, like simply put, when the override hit, I was like, wait a minute, this is really stupid. Like these are like it's not like a small override. You know, they can make a sale and they might make 1,200 bucks and I'll make $300 off of it. So I'm like, if I do the work one time, I really sell them hard and I like spend an hour with them and I get them, to really do the onboarding process right. I might spend, maybe 2, 3 hours getting them up and running, but the rest of our life, I'm going to be making $200, $200, $200, $200. It just made more sense from like a mathematics standpoint. Like I should invest my time in the thing that's going to continue paying me, not the thing that pays me once. So my mindset became make just enough to be sexy for recruiting and pay my bills. And then the rest of my time I spend all day recruiting, like back to back.
Boys, it's sexy for recruiting. It's so true.
Yeah.
Numbers are impactful, and that's what people want to be led by. Like, no one's gonna get the opportunity to truly know you until they are given the opportunity to truly know you, and then you can make an impact and a shift, like in so many different ways. You were talking about when you were working for somebody else, and this guy was like the top lead of the company, but he pulled you aside and he was just like, "Hey, man, where do you want to be? Like, what's your ultimate goal and how can I help you get there?" Do you find yourself doing that with like your hires now?
Dude, 100%. Like I get people call me all the time. One of my guys, Tony Lee, he's a badass recruiter and a writer. He wrote 10K last week. And he pulls me aside and he was talking about leadership and like kind of how he could be a better leader. And I was like, well, I mean, I can only tell you by what I know, and I don't know that much, but what do you want to get off with them? He's like, man, I want to feel like how you make me feel. And I'm like, well, then do that. Just focus on them, dude. Like, don't focus on where it's going to get you. Just focus on where that's going to get them. It's like so easy. It's like the same thing you do on a sales call. You just do that with your clients every single day. And I believe that sales, like selling a product, selling a service is the lowest level of sales. The next level of sales is recruiting, and then the next level of sales is leadership. And so if you can make someone like, get impulsive and make a purchase, that's a skill, right? You're influencing them, right? But if you could get someone to change the trajectory of their life and how they're going to provide for their family, that's a much bigger skill, right? And then now they're recruiting and you're recruiting them and then keeping them and buying that loyalty and getting them to be the best version of themselves, I believe is the highest level of sales. But the cool thing is the same fundamentals. It's the same process that you use. And so I don't know if this is from The Art of War or some book, but the same process you use to like win a thumb war or like let's say hand-to-hand combat, right? Like they go right, I go left. You just zoom out. That's what the general's doing on a big level, but with all the pawns. And so that's kind of the idea when it comes to recruiting is like you get to choose which seat you're in. And so it's 100% your choice, especially with the system we have with Unitrust. You could be the one who's like going hand to hand and winning a fight, or you could win the battle, and it's 100% your choice.
So cool, bro. I was just about to brag about what a great thumb wrestler I am, and then you're like, wait, you don't want to be the thumb wrestler.
Yeah.
You want to be the general of top, so never mind. I suck at thumb wrestling. Um, but that's cool, bro. That's very intuitive. So you're giving me the overview. I want the sauce. I want to hear what are the type of things that you're kind of telling people on the phone when you're trying to bring them over or like say like, hey, check this out. Like this could be good for you. Like what is it that comes out of your mouth? Like what are your ways of recruiting?
Sure. I'll give you two prefaces, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes.
Cool.
The first one is what makes a good recruiter in the first place, right? And ultimately, like I said, recruiting is sales. It's one of the higher forms of sales. So do exactly what you do on a sales call. The same way that you build rapport, the same way that you connect with the people, the same way you find out their goals and their pains and their problems, and you really make sure that they feel understood is the exact same thing. So if you go in there with a script and you're like, hey, this is the thing, this is what I like about Unitrust, this is why you shouldn't go to FFL, blah, 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 you're going to sound like a robot. You're not going to connect with anybody. But if you really just ask questions and you have that Socratic dialogue where it's like, I ask a question, I get an answer. I ask a question, I get an answer. But instead of just asking them to ask them, you actually care about the answer. And the biggest tip I can give anybody for sales, but especially in recruiting, is be okay if the answer is no. Like be unattached to the outcome. And when you ask these questions, polarize them and ask them questions like, okay, so you made 50K last month as a salesperson. Why not just do that again? And they might say, you're right. I shouldn't start something new. Sorry, I wasted your time. And that's okay. But sometimes they go, well, because the ads are drying up. And you're like, oh, I get it. That makes a lot of sense. But like, why not just wait till they get better? And then they might say, well, they might get better. Or the reality will come out where they go, I don't really think they will. Well, how confident are you that they're going to get back? And so you play devil's advocate until they tell you, like, no, my job's cooked. Like, I got to go. And then it's easy to recruit them from there because you really listened. So that's probably the biggest sauce. But what I will tell you is this, the biggest difference between me and a lot of other people in network marketing or in the recruiting game, um, I think is that I put an emphasis on it and it's part of my identity, where a lot of people, it's just something they do on the side. And so they say the difference between the amateur and the professional is how much they prepare. And so most people have a perfectly written out script for their insurance calls, but they go into a recruiting call not knowing what they're going to do. Like they just have absolutely no plan at all. And the call goes off the rails and they wonder why. So you have to have a system. I don't necessarily have a script because it's not that easy. But I know the points that I'm going to hit before I get on the call. I do my homework on the person. I do my homework on the company that they're coming from or what they're doing. And so I'm a lot more prepared than most people, I think. Um, and I just share some other stuff, but maybe we'll stop there for now.
No, it's awesome, bro. I love that. I love that you have a strategy going into that, right? And you have bullet points that you want to hit on. What are the bullet points you like to hit on?
Depends what I guess for the context of this call, where is most of the recruiting coming from right now? Is it other companies? Is it leaders? Is it niche down? Is it friends and family?
It really depends by individual, right? We as a team haven't had quite a focus on that. Some people are going to be on that URS. Some people are going to be reaching out to their warm market. Some people might be passing out a card at a restaurant and saying, "You should do what I do."
Hmm.
That might be me.
I guess it really comes down, but at the end of the day, you have to get them to realize that this is the right thing, and this is there's a saying, I'm going to butcher it, but this needs to be the simultaneous reason why everything in the past hasn't worked and why they should do this right now. And so
Mhm.
essentially, I want to get into the buying pocket where they're like, oh my gosh, like I was at FFL and I made a bunch of money, but it all refunded because they were IULs. Or my upline was, rewriting my business because of integrity. Or I was in a sales job and the problem was I had to drive everywhere and so I was putting miles on my car. Or, whatever the thing is, you have to get them at the end of the recruiting call for them to say in their head, like, wow, if I would have been with Spencer first, I would have already been successful. I should have done this yesterday. So it doesn't really matter where they come from, but you got to ask the question so that at the end, when you make that assumption, like, hey, so it sounds like this might be the right fit. How do you feel? That they're like, dude, if I knew you 5 years ago, I'd be rich. Ultimately, that's what you're looking for at the end of the recruiting call. So whatever their problems are, they give you, like they just give you the sauce to sell them, but you got to be smart enough and care enough to listen.
Love that, bro. Love that. So obviously be very, very tuned into what they're saying. Pay attention. Don't multitask while that's going on. Just like Brandon Hall tells us, right? When you're going over the numbers, when you're doing anything else, focus on the person. Literally listen to what they're saying, and that's gonna help. And it's so true. And I'm sure so many of us get caught up doing that multitasking, that ADD kicks in, man. So you're growing the team, now you're bringing people on. What's your process to be able to get a non-writer, non-industry person to actually become a producer?
How do I get a non-industry person to become a producer? Josh Crisp, I got this from him. So the key is most of them are not going to write. Let's just be real. The truth of the matter is most of them are not going to write. And so what you do is you just give people tasks. So you come into my call and I'm talking to you. I say, Lewis, I'm friends with your sister-in-law, Daniela. She's awesome. I'm excited to meet with you. So we have our conversation. I say, well, why don't you go back to the serving business? There's a lot of money to be made there. It's a noble profession. And you're like, no, I want something that's going to last and I want residuals and I want it, blah, blah, blah. So I find all this out and I say, okay, cool. Well, next steps are really simple. You got to get licensed. Before we get married, we got a date, right? I need to make sure that you're serious about this. Let's get you licensed. My average student, my average client, or my average team member, they're getting licensed from the day I send them the contract within 7 days. Now that's with a job and a family and those kind of
7
things.
days, man. Okay.
Yeah. So it's 7 days expectation. I did it in 3 because I'm not here to waste time. My top guy did it in 2 days. So I'm totally confident you could do it in 7 days. I know you said you're working these times and these times. Could you commit to about an hour a day of study? And they say, yes. I'm like, okay. So you're going to study for 2, 3 hours. You're going to feel good. I recommend studying for 2 or 3 more days just to really get it down and then book the call for the following Monday. Can you do that? Okay. That's what I want you to do. Just study. Here's the link. Here's my code. I have a little cheat sheet that I give them. I kind of explain how to study. And I say, just call me once you schedule the test or text me. And so I give them that task. And then every day I get 3 or 4 people that message me and say, hey man, I scheduled a test. I'm like, awesome. What day is it? And then I put a reminder on my CRM and then they schedule a test. Hey, how'd it go? Oh, you failed? No worries. And I kind of like, I work with them from there, depending on how, responsive they are. And that's it. But I'm very unattached because I don't expect that every ICA that I send out or every person that went and got through Exam FX is going to get licensed or going to become a writer. It really is just like your sales calls. It's a numbers game.
It's totally a numbers game, right? But I love the follow up. I love the CRM. I love the touch and base. I love the fact that you're caring about them. It's not just another person. Like ultimately, you're bringing them on to truly make an impact for them to be in a culture where you can believe in yourselves, right? It's almost just like, hey, hang out with Spencer. You're gonna believe in yourself. That's the mindset you want to instill in them, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think so many of our team members have that too, that they can also implement, but you're structured about it. And I think the fact that you're so methodological, the fact that you're so structured about how you're approaching it, how you're going to it, it happens every 100 words.
Yeah.
How you're going about it is going to lead to success because you have a strategy, you have a process you're going to follow, and where you want to go. So now those three individuals got licensed, they're coming on, right? Now it's the mindset of like, you got to buy your own leads, right? Do you have everybody start with D leads? Do you bring them onto your Zoom calls to watch other people? Do you guys, as other teams and the other leaders, can they just hop all around and watch everybody else do pressos?
Yeah, yeah, we don't really, it's not team specific. Now we hang out as a team because we answer each other's questions. But I always tell people, like, hey, if I'm not on a prezo, just go hop in a call. Just don't say anything. Just be a fly on the wall, just wave and listen. And they're happy to do that. And their guys come in there and watch us as well. But we keep like the questions pretty much relevant to the leaders so that if someone comes in another call, starts asking questions, they're like, hey, go to, who's your upline, go talk to him or whatever. But yeah, that's the way that we do it. So for onboarding, the way that I do it is it depends on the person because some people's goal is to recruit. So from the time that they come back and get licensed, I'm like, dude, congratulations. Here's the next steps. So I have like an onboarding sheet I give them like, hey, you have to get licensed, you have to get contracted. And I just set the frame really hard. I go, look, this is the part that separates the boys from the men, right? Like this is going to put some hairs on your cap. Contracting's not easy. Like this is a real profession, right? If you got onboarded at a hospital to be a brain surgeon making 200 grand a year, 300, 400, 5 grand a year, it's not just you walk in day one and start opening up heads, like this is a serious deal. We got to get you a background check. We got to do all this kind of stuff. So I set it up as it's like a big process because it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I think that's where a lot of people get messed up is during the contracting process. And I say, look, it does take about 2 weeks. Sometimes it happens earlier. But in those 2 weeks, this is what I want you to do. I want you to come on every single day at 8 o'clock and listen to us dial. The hardest part about this business is learning how to dial. The presentation's easy. Like anybody could sell insurance. I truly believe that. The hard part is being disciplined to be able to put up appointments. And so I don't want you to come in here having the script perfect and then you go to dial and you get crushed. You have no appointments for the day. So every day I want you 8 to 11. I'm not asking for much. Come in here and listen to us dial. After that, throughout the day, come on as many as times as you want. Try to listen to at least one presentation a day is my recommendation for the first 2 weeks. And you'll be, by the end of the first 2 weeks, you're going to be, saying the presentation in your sleep. You'll hear the same jokes every single time. Like you'll be fine. And then once you get your carrier, you're gonna book your first calls with us at 8 o'clock. We'll do a dial session together. I'll do a dial, you'll do a dial. I'll do a dial, you'll do a dial. And then we'll book out our calendars. And then I'll make sure that I'm there for you and I'll listen to you present. I'll be in your ear. And if you say something wrong, I'll correct it. And when you're ready to go to the medication list, I'll explain to you what gabapentin is and help you make sure you place it right. And then you'll write your first deal and you get keep all the money. They're all excited and you get them a deal in their first week and then they ain't going nowhere.
Then you go nowhere. Get them riding right away, right?
100%.
Love that. What do you recommend for the initial buy-in, or does that vary by each individual? Like, are people different? Somebody has more money, go high.
So I wish I had a blanket answer. Let me check my calendar real quick. So I wish I had a blanket answer, but here's the real answer. And maybe you don't tell this to your people, but just so you have the under my mindset behind it is if you got pocket aces and you're playing poker, how much do you go all in with? The answer is as much as you can afford, right? But just because you have pocket aces doesn't mean you're going to win the pot. I think it's like 82% of the time you're going to win the pot, but there's still a chance that they get a flush, they get a straight, they get three of a kind, whatever, right? And so you're not going to risk your life savings on an 82% chance of winning, right? And so it's the same thing when it comes to buying leads and really business in general is you got to be able to go all in and no matter what the result is, you need to be able to reload the clip within 10 minutes if the amount that you're buying, so you need 25 leads a day. That's what I tell everyone. Now, which leads to buy? It just depends how much money you have. If you spent X amount of money and you bail out because it happens at no fault of your own Can you reload the clip within 10 minutes without calling me and crying? That's my answer to you. And so they go, well, I really want A leads. I'm like, okay, so you spend $700 in A leads. Got it. I'll sign off on that. But when you bagel out, or if you bageled out and you have no sales, are you calling me and complaining? Or are you just loading up without asking me? Because I'm going to hold you to that. And they go, well, it kind of stinks. Then it's too expensive for you. It's too rich for your blood. If you have attachment on those calls, if someone tells you to screw off and it hurts your feelings because it's that too expensive, you're just not ready for it. Simple as that. So I say, you know what? You got a $500 budget, dude. You're not ready for C leads. Straight up. I wish you were, but you're not. Like me, I'll go 40 grand into the credit card debt. I don't care. I'm a little bit crazy like that. But for you, like if you're gonna sit there and lick your wounds for a week, you lost a lot more money than you made off of not buying the right leads. Like it's way worse. And so I ran into that problem a couple times, and I started explaining it like that, and that has helped a lot.
I like that. That's awesome. It's eye opening on the way that it gets presented to different individuals and to different people. That's cool, man. So you think 25 is the number, huh? You want to have 25 leads. It doesn't really matter to you if they're D's, C's, B's, whatever. You want them to have at least 25. What's the dial strategy you go behind that?
I'd say I do tell them 25, but truth be told, if they're D's, I would say like 50. But like C's and above, I'd say 25. And the dial, I double dial. I'm not a big fan of triple dialing. I do it, but because I'm like tactful sometimes. And so I could pull it off. And if they freak out, I'm like, oh, it wasn't going through. I'm sorry. But like most people won't pull that off. So I just double dial. I double dial in the morning. I change my number at night if they didn't answer. And that's my strategy.
That's it, right? So double dial each one of them, and then you call them one more time in the afternoon between dials. That's that
Hmm.
simple. It's
8 to
that awesome.
11. That's it.
I love it, brother, man. Thanks so much for joining us here and just kind of sharing with us. Give me some tips to success for the new people that are coming in or the new ones that are watching here that are still just maybe not quite taking that leap.
Sure. The leap for selling, the leap for recruiting, or just all over.
I think selling for this group more than anything, but I think there's going to be a couple for recruiting. So you pick whatever you're more
Sure.
excited about.
Sure, yeah, I think recruiting. So I'll just give you a success tip in general that I learned from Tony that changed my life. And if you guys are Tony fans, you guys all know about the RPM method. And so I'll give you like the distilled or watered down version of it, which is basically whether your goal is to have a better relationship with your wife, to grow your insurance business, to have a big team, to get more fit, to be more healthy, to be more disciplined, whatever it is, right? The reason why we don't do the things that we say we want to do is because we don't have clarity in our vision. It hasn't become an absolute must. So we don't get the things we want in life. We fall to our standards or the things that we're willing to settle for. And so the key is you need to tie emotion to your goals. And so just like when you're on a sales call, if it's a service level call, there's going to be like a lot of like resistance and then they kind of think about it and they move forward. But if you get them like breathe, like imagining and feeling and seeing and smelling the vision of the future, it becomes a lot more juicy, and you have to do that to yourself. So remember we talked about how it's kind of coming full circle. So like the lowest level of sales is like influencing other people to buy. The next level is to influence them for recruiting. The higher level is leadership. The truest high level of sales is being able to sell yourself into doing the things that you need to do. And the way you do it is the exact same way that you sell everybody else, which is finding out what the problem is, what's getting in the way, where exactly do I want to be, why do I want to be there, and more importantly, who do I become when I get that thing. And getting aligned with your identity of like, I'm going to be a fantastic father. I'm going to be someone who's like Mike Warren, who not only provides $1 million a year for his family, but by 5 o'clock, he's there to be present with them. Like you could have it, he could have it both.
6 o'clock, easy, easy.
6 o'clock. Yeah. You could have it all, right? You don't have to be a workaholic and not be around for your kids. Like it's possible. But the question is not if it's possible. The question is it worth it? Like, is that really what I want? And the biggest problem I find in this business is that people set their goals way too high. And so I kind of ask all my teammates and I'll say, oh, so you want to make $1 million a year? That's awesome. Do me a favor. And I'll sit down with them one on one and I say, close your eyes. I want you to walk me through the perfect Monday in your life. Not like on vacation, not like on your birthday. I mean, like a normal Monday when you're making $1 million a year. What do you imagine it looks like? And I do this for two reasons. One, I want to make sure they have realistic expectations of what $1 million earner looks like. Like it puts some hair on your kneecaps when you're making that kind of money. Number one. Number two, I want to see what they actually want. And what you'll find, and you could all do this with yourself, and you can sit there and say, okay, so they usually start up and say, well, I start by 9 o'clock. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like you're laying down, you wake up, your eyes open. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Oh, I'm by a beautiful woman and my alarm clock. I'm waking up by the sun. And they start describing exactly what they see. Some hair in your kneecaps. They start describing the world. And they start mainly what people typically say, if you guys want to know, is they say, I want to wake up on my own time. I want to have like a serene and calm morning. I want to have a nice Nespresso, coffee, and my wife has food ready for me, right? I work out, and basically they just want our life. And I show them that like a lot of times they could have exactly what they want, the house they want, the car they want, the boat, the family, at like $500,000 a year. You really don't need $1 million a year to do that. And the reason why this is so significant is because $1 million goal requires totally different action than a $500,000 goal or $250,000 goal. And so if their goal is like subconsciously just to make $250,000 a year and feel secure, you don't want to push them like your other leaders who really do have $1 million goal. Because if a yacht and a boat and a paddock is not really on their value of importance, and all they want to do is have $250,000 so their wife stops saying like, hey, you should go back to Costco where at least we were secure. If that's all they want, get them that first and then you can grow there later because when there's that rift and that disconnect, what happens is people they overexert themselves and eventually their subconscious lines up with their conscious and they're like, I don't really need this, and then they fall off, and that's where the breakage happens. So getting people really aligned with exactly what they want in a more shorter term goal, so that they could be the person they want to be, I think is the biggest hack I can give you in terms of like getting the team to move forward.
That's awesome, bro. I absolutely love that. It's just such a different mindset from what most people have. I see Chris making faces, but I think it's a good thing. I can't really tell. It's small over there right now. But guys, it's not often that we have someone like Spencer joining us that just has a different view on this, a different approach. So at this time, if anybody wants to unmute and just get a couple of words in or ask any questions, this is your opportunity. I know Mike's talking about the kneecaps here. What else do we have? We have Pratnia saying impressed how articulate and super focused you are. I love that. So guys, I'm gonna give you a second. If anybody does want to unmute, go ahead and do so now. If not, I'm gonna let my boy Spencer Mayo go.
Come on, man. Hit me, guys. I'm all ears. I'm like a rabbit.
Well, if anyone's coming on, dude, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom, bro. It was really awesome. How old are you?
So I look younger than I am. So I'm 30 actually.
You're 30. All right, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
do look younger than you are.
People think I'm
But
like 16, but it is what it is.
yeah, you speak like you're 50. Very wise. Very
Thank
wise.
you.
I love it, dude. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I was talking with someone yesterday. I think it was you, Luis. But actually it was my next door neighbor I went out to lunch with yesterday, Michael, and just talking about how Tony Robbins changed my life. And I am where I am right now because of him. And so I can hear him through you. And it's man, it's so nice to hear. And it's no wonder you're having success here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I actually worked for him for 6 months. It's
Oh,
cool. It
did
was
you really? Wow, that's awesome.
yeah, I sold his life coaching for a while. Yeah,
Beautiful. Love it.
That's
highly
You
recommend
had
it.
mentioned a cheat sheet that you have for test prep that you give to new people. Is that something you can share with us?
No, just kidding. I got you.
Ha, love it.
They said it. So it's only for Florida. And I found that it doesn't really translate very well for other states. But if you have anyone,
Okay.
check this out. Drop it in the
Yeah.
chat now.
Cool.
Really, really useful because if they just follow this cheat sheet, they could pretty much read it one time, pass each quiz, and then go take the test. So that's how I was able to do it in 3 days because someone gave me that cheat sheet. I'm in Florida, so that helped a ton. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So where in Florida are you?
I'm actually neighbors with Luis. He's like maybe 30 minutes north of me,
Oh, whereabouts?
West Palm Beach.
You're in West Palm. I'm in Boynton.
Okay, cool. I just moved out of Delray.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm real close to Delray. Yeah,
Nice.
we got
We
a
got
few down here. Maria's here too.
cool. We got to do a little meetup. This I
Yeah,
gotta say, this
absolutely, bro.
team, I love the energy of this team. Like I love Josh and Mike, and I'm not talking bad or anything, but I love the way I was taking notes this whole time on like the leadership and the way that you guys structure your meetings and have the cameras on. Like it's a lot more professional, and to me that goes a long way because when I first came here, I was like kind of like a free for all, you know. So kudos to you guys for what you guys have built here. It's so cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, brother.
100%. I could say one more thing, Louis. Luis, I was thinking about that kind of came to me as we were going. If we have time.
Yeah, please do.
So when it comes to recruiting, something to understand, and there's a video I can link. Let me find it. I actually have it up here. If you guys want to watch it, I don't know how much you guys have time. I have no time these days. It's at minute 49:49 in this video. You guys can kind of watch this. So 49:49. A sick interview about leadership and building teams. And what something that he had said that was really interesting is that A players will produce A players. And don't want to say you can't like bring a C player up to an A player. You totally can. There was a time when I was a C player, so I don't want to say like it's not worth your time, because it totally is. And the majority of your volume is going to come from people who are writing $2,000, $3,000 a week. Excuse me. However, my mindset when it comes to growing this business, I said, no chance you're a C player. I've had some demons, man. I had a different life. So I'll tell you this. When I look at like you I look at business like counting cards. And if you guys haven't really don't know what counting cards is, then it's kind of hard to explain. But when you count cards, you're looking at what's called estimated value. So every play has, if you run it over 1,000 times into a software, has a percentage of the times that it's going to be profitable versus not profitable. It doesn't mean that this time when you flip the coin, you're going to get heads, but percentage, if you do it 1,000 times, it's going to be 50% of it's going to be heads, 50% of it's going to be tails. And so the value in recruiting is not necessarily the person who's right in front of you because you're going to make $1 million off of them. It's the process that you're committed to, that if you have a winning process, that in the bounds of probability, you're going to make enough recruits that you're going to be able to build a multi-million-dollar business. And some of them are going to come from A players, B players, and C players. But here's the really cool part about it. The faster that you hire, the faster you're going to find your A players. And if you are an A player, you probably already know A players. But if you're not an A player or you weren't previously and you're becoming one, you have a unique struggle where you don't bring on A players day one. And so what you have to do is you have to hire B and C players and then what's called taproot their network as fast as possible. And so you don't want to taproot their network and say, hey, who do you know that could use a job? Because then if they're a B player, they're going to bring you C and D players. And so the way that you ask for the referrals needs to be like, hey, who's the most impressive person you know in your life that if they got an opportunity like this, they would absolutely crush it. And then they start bringing you their perceived B and A players. And then you get A players on the phone. You might not close as many of them, but when you do get one of those A players, they're going to bring you more A and B players. And that's how you keep the higher level of opportunity. And that's how you don't spend so much time doing training and all the stuff that kind of drains us as leaders. And so as you start bringing on more people, they say, I mean, I don't know how true this is, but they say every 7 to 10 levels deep, you're going to run into an A player that will like completely change your business. And you look at all these billionaires, and there's so many interviews and so many books that talk about this, that basically they say the number one skill that they wish they learned sooner in business was learning how to hire and attract A players and investing more money and more time to find those people. And in our business, it's not like we give them signing bonuses or anything like that. In our business is you're going through the time of talking to sometimes not so great people that aren't going to follow through. But I'll give you guys a trick. If you get a referral from them while they're studying, they're hot and they're excited. It doesn't matter if they follow through because now you're one level deeper and one level deeper and one level deeper. And so I could have a recruit. I'll tell you a story. Yes, last night, my brother, he just texted me, love him to death. He says, I got my license. I'll start in 2 months. You guys can guess if he's an A or B or C player. I don't know. I think he's an A player, but he's not there right now, right? So objectively, in terms of volume, he's on the D scale, right? He brought me his friend from his old job. He told me, hey, I'm going to do it once you hit a certain amount of money. He's not really an A player. But he brought me his girlfriend, and his girlfriend is a killer, and she brought me 3 people. And of those 3 people, she's still in licensing right now. Of those 3 people, one of them brought me her son-in-law. So he's texting me. His name's Antoine. I was super busy yesterday. I'm writing deals. I'm training teams. And he's like really responsive. So I said, hey, what time tomorrow works for you? Or could you meet right now? It was at 8:30 last night. I was about to go to bed. He goes, I could hop on right now. Okay. So I start calling him. I go, dude, let's just hop on Zoom. Send me his Zoom. He has a sick background, one of those ClickFunnels things. And this guy's a multi-million-dollar closer. And I was able to find him, and he's super gassed up about insurance. And, as a bonus, he's already licensed from a year ago. So he's going to be on right away. This is going to be a 15 to $20,000 a week writer instantly. But I had to go through my brother, who went to his friend Corey, who signed up his girlfriend, who brought in her friend, who brought in her son-in-law. And it didn't happen by accident. I have a very intentional process. I extract the referrals from them because I know mathematically that every 7 to 10 levels deep, I'm going to find an A player. And here's the key. A players know more A players. And they like responsibility and leadership. And so I give them a little bit extra comp. I say, hey, I don't normally do this. I'm going to give you a little bit extra comp, but I need to take over a little bit of leadership. Is that okay? Can I count on you for this and for that? And then I just leverage myself, and now I'm back to going down 7 levels deep because that's what I do. I'm really good at taprooting.
Can I have you on my team, please?
Can I ask you a question, Spencer?
You guys
I'll
give signing
chime in.
bonuses?
Phenomenal stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing all this stuff with us. I mean, really, really special. This might be a little bit in the weeds for you, but like when you're onboarding someone new, what does your process look like in terms of them shadowing you, you shadowing them, in terms of actually the prezos?
Uh, how do you mean the
Well,
process of?
like, are you letting them shadow you on presentations? If so, how many for how long?
Oh, we just pitch like live all day. So the way I learned, which I think is what I'm trying to replicate, I'm not doing as many presentations as I should. I'm gonna have like 6 today, but I don't double book, which is I know it's a big mistake, but I kind of want them to no show, so I go back to recruiting. So that's the kind of a bottleneck. But what Brandon Kawachi did for me was he was double booked, and so he's like, "Look, I'm double booked from 7 to 9. Be there." I'm like, okay, so 7 o'clock, I'm there with my notepad, and he just ripped and ripped and ripped and ripped over and over and over in front of me. And so that's what we've been trying to emulate. I don't think I've locked it down perfectly, but basically the idea is in one of our rooms, we want to have somebody unmuted with everybody else muted, just ripping the deal. And then the people in chat, gassing them up. That's been
Yes.
the whole training. That's really about it.
We got so many killers here, Mike. We got so many killers, you know? Like out of the just looking around, like so many talented individuals that I believe we gotta start doing some live pre-sales. Brad kills it. He does that for a lot of the team, but I feel like as a whole, it's time for us to like take that next step. And then this way, Mike, you bring a recruit in, he can jump in and watch me or watch Brad or watch Grayson or Miranda or whoever it is. And if they bring somebody else, we can also have that going around. So we're gonna get to that. But man, Spencer, this has been insightful, brother. I love how you tap in and how you request. I believe in the training last Friday, you were like the two times that people are the most excited about it is when they're about to get started and when they make their first sale. How do you tell them like, hey, who else do you know? What else? Who else do you want me to talk to? Like, what?
Well, if they just made their first sale, I usually have a relationship with them at that point, and so I'm already kind of future pacing like the team. And so if I see them as a leader, it's very different. If I actually think like, and I'm very genuine, so if I really think they're going to be a leader, I want to tell them, hey, like you would make a great leader. Like, have you put any thought into this? Have you put any thought into that? And they'll usually tell me, and I say, hey, look, let's just focus on writing, no big deal. And here's one thing I do is I say, look, I don't normally do this, but if you're going to be a leader one day, I want you to focus on getting to 10K a week because that's the best way you could be a leader. If you have anybody in mind, I will take them under my wing for you, put them underneath you. You'll get the override and all that kind of stuff. And so that way, by the time you are writing 10, 20K a week, if you want to start running a team, you can. But if not, it's just extra volume for you. So I really make it super sweet where I do the recruiting call for them. I don't let them do it. I say, put me in a three-way message, and then I call them myself. I do the recruiting call. I get them over Exam FX. Like I do everything myself because I found that people don't do typically a very good job of that.
Love that, bro. Do you do the recruiting call live with other people like listening to you so that they also eventually will learn how to recruit like you recruit?
My leaders do. So yeah, so what I do is I bring them in about halfway through. So after I kind of feel like it's going to be a yes, I'll be like, hey, one of my guys is coming in here. Do you mind if he watches or whatever? And also that gives me social proof that like I'm leading people, and so that usually helps pretty a lot. And then they just come in and they listen to me do my thing. I usually wait for about halfway through though.
Love that, bro. I don't know if you guys caught this last time when he was on Friday. He's like, you know what? So I'm doing a recruiting and I'm wrapping it up. I asked the person to stay on for just a little bit longer. So as the other person comes in, he's like, hey, just hold on one second. I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay, so great. Looking forward to getting you started, whatever it is. And the other person's just sitting there waiting. And the other one's just like, okay, yeah, you're great. You're welcome. And then he sees that flow of how busy he is and how other people are jumping into that. It's such a
Yeah.
strategy, bro.
But here's the thing, I tell them what I'm doing. So I tell the first person what I'm doing. I said, hey, I literally say, hey, can you stay on so it looks like I'm more busy? I want them to know how busy I am. I tell the person, so they stay on for me. So do me a favor, right? I tell the person, hey, John, one second, I'm just wrapping up this deal. Okay, so this is where you're gonna sign. Can you sign here? Okay, look, I'm so excited to have you. Here, do this thing. Here's your homework next. The guy gets off, he's smiling. The next guy comes on, and then I tell him at the end, I say, hey, remember how the last guy stayed on? I asked him to do that so you'd see how busy I am. Can you do that with me for the next guy? And I tell him about the next guy, and I just do that all day long. It's hilarious. I did it last night with the guy from the Millionaire Closer.
I love that. The Millionaire Closer. That's amazing, bro. Dude, so good. Last time, guys, if